All right. Welcome, everybody, to episode 210 of the F and Marks podcast. I'm Jay, and as you can tell, I have no partner today. The brainless one's a little bit under the weather, so I have reconfiguring of the show for this week, but so be must go on. So awful lot things happened in professional wrestling this week. We're going to talk a little Elimination Chamber. We're going to talk TakeOver. We're going to talk about Lacey Evans and the pregnancy storyline and all that sorts of fun stuff. But yeah, so definitely thinking about the brainless one. Hope he gets better soon. So what's up, Wayne? Thanks for tuning in, man. Appreciate it. All right. So, we ended up having TakeOver Vengeance last week. Brainless One and I made our predictions. Some of them were a little outside the box, but TakeOver was a strong show. Just they always deliver. Why is it that they always deliver, and you always have the main card stuff that just is all over the place? Who knows? But let's get into some of these matches just a little bit. All right, so we had Johnny Gargano going against Kushida. Now, they've been building this up for a while. And the way they spoke of this match, like, two of the greatest technicians in the world, dream match everybody's been wanting to see for the longest time. And when they started out with this match, they did a lot of grappling, mat wrestling, kind of who's better than the other one as far as the ground game. And each one of them, they had a counter to what the other person did. So, but I could tell, and just knowing what these two guys can do, you knew that this match was slowly going to ramp up and then turn into something incredible, which it did. So, I loved this match. There were a couple of little moments here and there that drove me nuts. There was a part where I think it was Gargano did a super kick to Kushida, and Kushida more or less no sold it. And it's going, as much as I know that super kicks become a move for everybody, that moment took me out of it for a second, but everything else within this match was spectacular. I enjoyed the fact that Johnny Wrestling finally actually wrestled a match where it was just him and he didn't have the help of the way really in any way this week. So I thought it was a really good match, and Johnny Gargano winning was the correct choice in my view, because I think he's doing his best work at this point. So really enjoyed that. And if you guys have any comments about the matches at TakeOver, feel free to chime in. All right, so then we had the finals of the men's Dusty Classic tournament, and we had the Grizzled Young Veterans going against MSK. Once again, just skillful wrestling here, skillful tag team wrestling. And, I know the brainless one was thinking that the Grizzled Young Vets, were going to win this one because they didn't want them to be the Buffalo Bills, so to speak, of the Dusty Classic. But MSK just has so much momentum based off of, they were a new team, but had an awful lot of hype around them. And I just thought it was a really great showcase for both teams. And now MSK is going to end up having a match against Lorcan and Birch. But, to me, my favorite part of this match was when they did the Doomsday device with the dive outside the ring. And it was one of the sickest things I did. I don't know how the dude from MSK did not get hurt, but it was incredible. So I love that. Absolutely love that. So, all right. So I saw a question about Fish and Strong, but I do not. Let's see if I can go back and see that. All right. What side do I see Strong and Fish going on now that Adam Cole has turned on O'Reilly? And so that's one thing that happened at the end of TakeOver, where Adam Cole turned on O'Reilly and kick Finn Balor in the face. In my view, I think they're going to end up having Strong and Fish stay with Adam Cole, at least for the time being. I think they want to see with Kyle O'Reilly if the momentum and the things that he'd been doing with Finn Balor, is this our opportunity to turn him into a single star where he does not need to be in the confines of being in the Undisputed Era? So I think this is an opportunity for O'Reilly to be on his own. I think if he had the other two with him, I don't know. I think it would just make him less worthy or make it seem like he always needs people to have his back. So that's what I see with this. And like, we haven't seen a lot of Bobby Fish lately, but poor Bobby Fish has a tendency to get injured, and he's just getting a little bit older. So Chris, that definitely could be a thing. The Rockets attached to the MSK. I mean, MSK has done like great work, and I love how they utilize each other, and they do tag team maneuvers. I mean, I love when they do like the standing backflip and they push each other onto their opponent. It adds a little bit of something extra to it, and I love that. So. All right, so Chris Brown's also chiming in saying either Balor or McAfee will take the reins now that Cole's kicked them literally to the curb. So since we're talking about Adam Cole and Finn Balor, why don't we talk about the main event, which was Pete Dunne going against Finn Balor. Heck of a match. Both these guys, super skilled pros. I didn't really have any doubts that Balor was going to win, but I just wanted to see what they were going to do, how they were going to kind of have Dunne lose, but like what was going to happen. Like with this show in particular, it was like hey, you're having a takeover and you don't have the Undisputed Era. It certainly felt like something was missing, but they certainly made their presence felt at the end of this, after Balor goes over, hits the coup de grace and then hits the 1916 to pin Pete Dunne cleanly. You end up having Birch and Lorcan come out and beat the holy heck out of him, out of Finn Balor. And there were just so many like little great things that were done here. Between like after Balor won the match, still playing off the fact that his fingers got all wrecked during the match. He had the referee put the title around him because he couldn't grip it with his fingers. And the little subtlety about how Kyle O'Reilly was the one going around to Balor and, offering him the hand, and, everything seemed all right. After the Undisputed Era saved the day, all of them doing the Undisputed Era sign to the camera, and Adam Cole, super kicking away, and both O'Reilly and I thought it was like masterfully done, because with Adam Cole and with the Undisputed Era, they've been running NXT for so long, they've been doing their thing for so long that you keep doing the same thing over and over again. Eventually, it's just not as fresh, it's not as good, and I think they've been doing a great job with keeping them together, not always having them win, but always had them in the mix of everything. So I think this will be a great way to freshen them up and also give Kyle O'Reilly the opportunity I think he's earned at being a single star. And beyond that, this just reminds me a little bit of the days of NWA where, when Flair was champion, he would fairly commonly end up wrestling, like Ricky Morton. from the Rock and Roll Express. Or I think there was a time where he went against Hawk, and there's a video online where it almost sounds like Hawk is talking about trying to violate Ric Flair in every way, shape, or form. But they used to do that in the past just so, you didn't see these guys in the same light all the time. Where, more or less you're a tag team wrestler now. You wrestle in a tag team and you aren't given that opportunity. So O'Reilly getting that opportunity, taking the ball, and I'd say absolute slam dunk, and this dude deserves this opportunity. He is getting right now. So, yeah, Mike Rainey, that is correct. Pat McAfee called this all along and said that Adam Cole BayBay was a piece of trash, and that he's just showing his true colors now. So yeah, good stuff. I love how McAfee he's just so doing his best kayfabe of trying to be old school, and even after the War Games match, when for a week on his show he wore the neck brace, and this also reminds me a little bit of back in the day when Hollywood Hogan ended up turning face, where he was talking about Ric Flair and how all Ric Flair wanted was to get that 14th title reign. He didn't care about anything else, didn't care about anybody else. He wanted that 14th title reign. And in the end, Hogan ended up being right, and that ended up, switching Hollywood Hogan. Might have been the first time in a few years that he had switched back to babyface, and it was all due to Ric Flair and him speaking the truth about Ric Flair back in the day. So this is kind of similar to that angle. So I dig it. And, I'm looking forward to seeing Kyle O'Reilly versus Adam Cole. And I'm looking forward to see Finn Balor versus Adam Cole again, because those are absolutely going to happen. So what this means as far as, Pete Dunne, Lorcan, and Birch, does this make them faces now? I don't know. But we'll see coming up, and should be interesting times when it comes to NXT. But since we just talked Vengeance Day and NXT, I'll just kind of go quickly through what happened Wednesday. Now, most of the stuff that happened on Wednesday didn't really fuse too much in with what happened during Vengeance Day, but we did have Kyle O'Reilly kind of coming out saying, I need to have a talk with Adam Cole. I might need to punch him in the face, but in the end, Adam Cole went full heel, and this thing is moving forward, and good stuff. So we had Ember Moon and Shotzi Blackheart going against The Way, Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell. Ember and Shotzi came up a little bit short in Dusty Classic, but they got a win here. So, hey, if they have them teaming going forward and they're actually attempting to build a more robust women's tag team division, I'm all for that. So, yeah. Mike Rainey, I wouldn't mind seeing Kyle O'Reilly get a run at the NXT Championship at some point. So, yeah. Since we did skip around on TakeOver a little bit, I did forget a couple of matches here. We did have Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez defeating Shotzi Blackheart and Ember Moon in the finals of the Dusty tournament. And those ladies will have a match in the future against Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler. So, and we had Io Shirai. She actually retained her title in a triple threat match against Toni Storm and against Mercedes Martinez. Those ladies really put on a show, and good back and forth. And I think Brainless One and I both were just expecting Io Shirai's had the title for a while. So we expected either Brainless One picked Toni Storm and I picked Mercedes Martinez to go over in this match. But in the end, you had the Io Shirai, the NXT Women's Champion, doing a moonsault and getting the victory. I want to say that it was Martinez did her ending move to Toni Storm or vice versa, and one was pinning the other, and you ended up having the Empress of the Sky there doing a moonsault and kind of taking advantage. So really solid work. I loved the part where Io Shirai got up on top of the scaffolding or the grid that they have in the Capitol Wrestling Center. It's nice that they actually have a little pedestal there where people could actually stand on and be like safe. But looking at that, you could tell that is freaking high. And kudos for them for putting on a really, really solid performance. And honestly, at this point, I don't know where we'd go from here in the women's division as far as the next contender for Io Shirai. Like, it seems like Rhea Ripley's gone to the main roster, but Rhea Ripley lost to Mercedes Martinez. So what happens? Does whoever didn't eat the pinfall, again, I forget if it was Martinez or Storm, whoever didn't eat the pinfall, like, are they like, well, you didn't pin me? I don't know. But I know Io Shirai has been doing a great job as champion, and, we'll see what happens with that. So, all right. So also NXT this week, we had Leon Ruff defeating Isaiah Swerve Scott. Both those guys are really talented. I hope they give them a little something more than they've been getting lately. But as long as they're on TV, I mean, that's something for them. We had Caden Carter and Casey Cantazzaro beating Jessica Mia and Aaliyah. Again, not much of anything there. It seems like after they have the takeovers, they just kind of have a show where they'll get people who aren't on TV as much a little bit of time. We had Kushida defeating Tyler Rust. And then we had Dunn, Birch, and Lorcan defeat Balor, O'Reilly, and Strong. And Adam Cole officially made his turn. Yeah. Okay, so Mike chiming in saying he heard that Casey Cantazzaro, they want to turn Casey heel and have her turn on her partner. Mike, as much as sometimes we can't see somebody as a heel, like when Daniel Bryan came back from his concussion issues after 3 years of being outside the ring, I was like, there is no way they could ever turn this man heel. I'm not going. They just can't. And you know what? He absolutely proved me wrong. And one of my favorite characters in the last few years was Daniel Bryan with the hemp belt. It was one of the greatest things ever. And, it just made me like sit down and go, you know what? I was wrong. Like, absolutely. Anybody who comes back from something like that, like, don't just assume that they can't do it. I mean, at some point, I think we all wanted Roman Reigns to turn heel, but we didn't know when or why. But it's like after the leukemia stuff, I was like, I don't know. I think it'll be hard to turn this dude heel when they know like his true story, the fact that he fought back from, a deadly disease like cancer twice. But he came back and he has been absolutely killing it being a heel for the last several months. Like, so I would say don't put it past Casey to be a heel. It's like give her the ball and see what she could do with it if that's what they choose to do. Because at least at this point, she's maybe a little bit floundering. And then also, like, again, Io Shirai needs somebody to go against. who is the next in line. So maybe Casey can be that. But, usually they have a takeover the weekend of WrestleMania, and I don't see like any what I would consider money match for Io Shirai, at least at this moment. Obviously on the men's side, we have all sorts of possibilities right now as far as like something if they do a takeover WrestleMania weekend where you're like, yeah, Adam Cole versus Kyle O'Reilly, Adam Cole versus Finn Balor, that could be your main event right there. That fantastic. So, but yeah, we'll see how all this goes. So Brian McAfee did appear briefly on NXT and shot a video more or less saying, hey, I knew Adam Cole was like this and you guys just didn't listen to me. And then, certainly still being a bit of a heel and bit of a dick, kind of said, hey, I'm awaiting your apology. I know I deserve a whole bunch of letters of apology from you for not believing the words I said, and those words are ringing true now. So good stuff. McAfee, it's sad that McAfee is in some ways a better professional wrestler than the guys that have been doing this for their livelihood. So. And we did have Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler confront Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez. Again, that match will be happening at some point. For Elimination Chamber tomorrow, we only have 4 officially scheduled matches. And I know Elimination Chamber is not one of the bigger shows of the year, but, the Elimination Chamber matches obviously take a little bit of time to do, but like, I don't think 4 matches are going to get you through, 2 hours and 45 minutes a show. So maybe this is something they'll add to the show, pre-show. I don't know, but we shall see. Yes, Mike, Nia and her hole. But oh, Nia Jax. So good. Anyway, all right. I'm going to get into AEW right now just because I'm going to use Raw and SmackDown to kind of get into Elimination Chamber predictions. All right, so AEW this week. Again, I'm just going to quickly kind of run down the card. There were a few things that happened here. Allegedly last week, Matt Hardy signed Hangman Adam Page to a contract, or at least he believed. And Hardy and Page went against TH2. And they won, but what ended up happening at the end is Matt Hardy finds out, but by the way, Hangman Page told me, my good friend Brody Lee told me, always make sure you got an extra set of papers on you when stuff's going on. And apparently the thing that Hangman Page signed was a match between he and Matt Hardy at Revolution, and it was for and Matt Hardy owes Hangman Page his entire check for the first quarter of 2021. So Matt Hardy talking about being bamboozled and what have you. And mind you, they also randomly had the Jacksonville Jaguars mascot bringing out this contract, which I thought it was a little silly, but I guess it was a way to, disguise what they were trying to do here. But, when Matt Hardy talked about how he was bamboozled, I'm like, oh, yeah, he's got something cooking here. But Hardy, trying to make the best of this bad situation for himself, just kind of says, hey, I know you're an honest man. You want to get the things that you want, you want to get them kind of fairly. And he was like, hey, if I'm putting my money on the line, or you're taking my money, why don't we turn this into a money match at Revolution? Whoever wins gets whoever's first quarter of the year salary. And Hardy got the handshake from Hangman Page, and then it's revealed that it's like Isaiah Cassidy who was the mascot, and he beats up Hangman Page, and Matt Hardy hires TH2 to $3,700 to beat up Adam Page. It's strange that they came up with $3,700, but all right, hey, why not? So beyond that, then all of a sudden you have -1 come out and unleash the Dark Order to help save Hangman Adam Page. So it certainly looks like Hangman Page is going to be the leader or part of the Dark Order in the near future. And in general, I think Dark Order probably would do much better off having a leader. That's just my view. So, all right. So Chris said they did add a match late last night, and it's going to be EST of WWE and Sasha Banks and versus Nia and Shayna for the tag belts. Okay. Yeah, I don't even remember them making anything like that official. I know that they had a scuffle last night about that. So, all right. So there's 5 matches for Elimination Chamber. So, all right. So then Team Taz comes out. Team Taz demands that Sting come out to the ring, and it, obviously it's a setup. It's like Taz, Brian Cage, and why am I blanking on the other dude's name right now? Either way, they're trying to hype up their match, and this is Sting's first, wrestling match since 2015 when he got injured with Seth Rollins, and Sting's coming out to the ring alone, and Taz just goads him into, hey, yeah, Sting, you're nothing without that bat. You've been nothing without that bat for quite some time. That's all you are now. So Sting, all right, fine. Throws down the bat, takes off his jacket, throws the jacket at Cage, and, things, a melee ensues. And Sting was doing okay for a bit, but in the end, he ends up eating a power bomb from Brian Cage, which, this is probably the first significant bump we've seen Sting take on TV since that match against Seth Rollins. And it's like, with the fact that it was a spine issue with Sting and him taking a power bomb, I mean, a little bit of me is like on, ooh, but also part of me is like going, all right, this is saying that they feel that Sting is healthy and can take this move and not be hurt, but also as part of the storytelling, like, hey, you want our good guys who are facing adversity to be able to overcome all this. So yeah, Mike, that power bomb definitely looked stiff, but Sting sat there and laid on the ground forever and ever, and like you said, he sold it like a champ. Sting's taken enough moves over the years that he hopefully he'll be safe, and hopefully having him in a tag team match will make it so he is as safe as he can be and be able to walk out of Revolution without, injuring himself. But again, I don't think he would be allowed to wrestle by Tony Khan if he didn't, pass whatever medical tests and didn't feel confident that he would be able to healthily get through these matches. So one segment that I thought was pretty enjoyable was story time with the champ. We had Kenny Omega in front of a bunch of kids at a school, and more or less the thing here is like Kenny is trying to garner the love and adoration from children and trying to raise his profile with the young demographic out there. But, it's like Kenny smiling for the cameras, and you could tell he doesn't really want to be there. And like one thing that I think could have been great if they just added this little bit in was when Kenny was reading, almost all the kids had a face mask on, but there was this one or maybe 2 kids that didn't have a face mask on. I wish he would have just pointed out and said, hey, you don't have a face mask. You don't get to talk to the champ or be in the champ's presence without a face mask. I wish he would have done something like that. But in the end, after Kenny, like, more or less just talked about his greatness and how much money he and Chris Jericho made, but it was all because of Kenny Omega, that wrestling was so much better off because of it. But like, more or less talking about all his greatness without not a lot of humility there. But, you know, he leaves and says, well, why don't you guys talk with, I forget what the Japanese guy's name was that they brought with him. Like, why don't you wrestle with him? And then having all the kids like wrestle with him and saying that that he sucked. I thought it was a silly little segment. But you know, when it comes to professional wrestling, you need little bits like this, because if it's nothing but in-ring product, the in-ring product just will grow stale after a while. It's like, hey, you know what? We get these great physical specimens out there that could do incredible things in the ring, but how am I going to attach to them? It's like Kevin Owens did an interview, and we talked about this last week, where Owens was like, hey, if I consistently have great matches, that just becomes expected of me. And then you raise the bar and you keep raising the bar, and it's like, at some point you're not going to get any better, but people attach to characters. And if nothing else, that's one thing I think Vince McMahon has always been good about, is realizing it's attaching to the character. You don't need to be the best in-ring performer. I mean, John Cena and Hulk Hogan are two of the most infamous for, I mean, I think both guys, if they could go in the ring and put on good matches, but that wasn't what was required of them. Their characters were so over that it didn't matter. They could have a stinker in the ring, but people were still going to react. So, yeah. But I enjoyed that. And I just want to point out also later on in the evening, Jim Ross referred to Kenny Omega as the WWE champion. You know, JR was in WWE for a super long time. And I'm sure that, you know, when he thinks wrestling, WWE just bubbles to the top of his brain sometimes. And I'm sure that's all that happened here. It's like, I worked at a TV station back like 15 years ago, where our sports guy had been at the station for 20 years at that point. And we were called 22 News. And randomly one day during his sportscast, he called us News Center 22, which we hadn't been News Center 22 in like 15 years at that point. So I'm sure it was just JR having like a moment where like his brain went somewhere else. So, but it was so, it was funny. Like, WWE champion Kenny Omega. Yeah. You know, Chris, I haven't seen Drew McIntyre's response to Jim Ross's mistake. I'll have to check that out. But I'm sure it was fantastic. All right. So we had Young Bucks defeat Santana and Ortiz. At the end of this, though, MJF and Jericho beat them down. And Good Brothers came out, and then Jericho and MJF just slowly kind of made their way out. And Jericho ended up having a little bit of an altercation with the Young Bucks' father. But, you know, a couple weeks from now, we're going to get MJF versus Chris Jericho, or MJF and Chris Jericho versus Young Bucks for the AEW Tag Team Championships. So, yeah. All right, so FTR went against the Seidel brothers, Matt and Mike, and you know, Matt, the former Evan Bourne, and I mean, unfortunately for him, like the thing I most remember him for recently is when he was in the I think it was the Battle Royal a few months ago when he debuted slipped on the ropes and almost killed himself. But in this match, FTR ends up going over, and they were going to cut Mike Seidel's hair off at the end. And just as they're getting ready to cut, lights go out, and then all of a sudden you see kind of a silhouetted mask, and you're like, oh, that looks like Luchasaurus's mask. And then lights turn on, and you see Jurassic Express in the ring, and they end up clearing house. And Luchasaurus has a new mask. Personally, I didn't see a large difference between the mask and the old mask, but that they clear house and help out the Seidel brothers. So, Greg, Cousin Bobby is under the weather right now. So Cousin Bobby decided he was like, dude, I just can't do the show today. So I'm doing it solo, and yeah. So definitely hoping Cousin Bobby gets well soon. So main event was Jon Moxley, Ray Phoenix, and Lance Archer, and they went against Butcher and Blade and Eddie Kingston. So Moxley, Phoenix, and Archer win, and at the end of this match, Moxley gets attacked by the Good Brothers, and Good Brothers are holding him down, and you have Kenny Omega come into the ring and talk about how, oh, I noticed that our contract for when I wrestled for the title, you sneakily wrote in here that, it was supposed, like, you were going to get a rematch if you lost. All right, you're going to get your rematch, but it's going to be a match that I want. And the funny thing is I think for the most part with Kenny Omega, you don't know him for being, at least what he's shown on AEW, for being a tough guy and for doing, some of the more hardcore matches. He had the one with Moxley, but in general, that's not what he's known for. But then Moxley comes out and says that they're going to do an electric barbed wire death match. And to the American audiences, that they probably haven't seen that much, but it was a huge thing in Japan in the 90s. I think there was footage on Beyond the Mat. I think there's footage also on like some of the McFoley documentaries where you see matches like that, where like instead of having ring ropes, you have barbed wire, and some parts of it are like set up to explode if you hit them. So, I mean, this match is going to be bloody. It's going to be brutal. And I think this is one of those things similar to Triple H in the early 2000s, where he went against, the faces of Foley to kind of add that element of being a badass and being a tough guy. Because up until then, he had been more of, a member of DX, and he had been, the snobbish guy from Greenwich. So having that set him on a different path and put him on a different level. So I think having Omega in a match against Moxley, that I think is, at least to the AEW fan, probably feels more in the wheelhouse of Jon Moxley. Because, I mean, he got his start and did all these things to get where he is now by doing death matches. But I think this is just something to try to take at least the perception of what Kenny Omega is and really bring him up to that next level as being a tough guy. So, all right. So Chris is saying that they're saying this match is going to be a wake up to Vince. I'd love to know what the wake up is. Someone who's lost his mind and thinks he's living in. Terry Funk said something to the effect of this was going to be a wake up to Vince McMahon. And it almost feels like he thinks this is going to be like something that catapults AEW up to the next level, similar to what happened with ECW back in the day. And ECW was never a credible threat to WWE, but they certainly developed this incredibly loyal fan base that, I mean, heck, even to this day, you'll sometimes hear ECW chants. After WCW went away, you didn't hear WCW chants that much. You know, the fan base wasn't as rabid. But bringing up that, the whole fact that, like, AEW, WWE, you know, Tony Khan this week, and Tony Khan in general seems to be ready, willing, and able to work with any wrestling organization in the world, as long as it could be something that could be mutually beneficial to his company and their company. And, you know, Khan said, if WWE came knocking on my door, I would certainly let them in. I'd certainly want to see what we could do together. At this point, I'm going to say no way in hell, no chance in hell that this happens, at least anytime soon. Vince McMahon loves competition and has his competition on Wednesday night with AEW. If he agreed to have something with AEW, more or less, that eliminates competition because they're a partner, right? I mean, it doesn't completely eliminate competition because, like, they're a separate company, but, like, you know, you're more of a partner than you are a competitor at that point. So I don't see it happening. And I think with AEW, right now, when they're competing on Wednesday night, they're competing against NXT. I think Tony Khan would want to have his folks show up on Raw or show up on SmackDown. They're more highly viewed television shows. And the other problem with that is I think TV contracts would also get in the way. Obviously, AEW has a contract with TNT, and I'm probably sure there's some sort of thing for WWE with their contracts with Fox and with USA, where there's kind of some exclusivity as far as their talent showing up on whatever show or whatever network. So I just don't see it happening as much as I'd kind of like to see it happen at some point. I mean, I'd love to see, like, Kenny Omega and Roman Reigns in a match. Honestly, I really, really would. But you know, Mike, I'm not 100% sure that Vince wouldn't work with another company. I mean, back in the day, he would more or less funded ECW at points, and ECW would have folded earlier than it did if it weren't for Vince McMahon. And basically, Vince's thing with that was ECW ended up kind of sort of being a training ground for WWE back in the day, where whatever you got to a certain level of stardom, then all of a sudden you got shifted up to WWE. So, yeah. So, nice, Monsef. Monsef said his dad is Ric Flair. It feels like everybody's dad is Ric Flair these days. But one more thing I'm going to get into before heading into Raw and Ric Flair and all the stuff going on with that is last week it came out that Sammy Guevara was supposed to do an angle with Impact and basically went down there and just said no to the creative they had. Apparently, it was creative that Don Callis and Chris Jericho came up with. And allegedly, it was agreed upon beforehand, and then Guevara gets there and says no to it. So it kind of, you know, I'm sure Chris Jericho wasn't too happy about that. I'm sure Don Callis wasn't too happy about it. I would be unhappy if I were Impact Wrestling that he didn't do this thing. You know, another little caveat in there is someone said, with what they were presenting for Sammy Guevara to do, I would have said no to it too. They didn't say exactly what it was, and apparently Sammy Guevara kind of said to them, his pitch was, hey, how about I win the X Division title and I leave here and I don't lose it and I take the X Division title to AEW, to which Impact Wrestling declined that. But, you know, it definitely, there have been a few people out there suggesting that Sammy Guevara's gotten very full of himself, and this was just him trying to big league Impact Wrestling. But you know what? I hope he matures up a bit, and before I started the podcast today, I watched Untold with JBL and Ron Simmons. And Ron Simmons talked about, hey, I didn't like when they gave me the Farouk gimmick with the like blue plastic gladiator stuff. But you know what? My job was to make the best of what I had and to turn it into something. And it's like, I think a lot of people can learn something from that. You may not like the thing you're given, but do the best with it that you could and go out there and make it work. And I think that's something that would be great if Sammy would have and could have done. So, Monsef, the brainless one, is under the weather today. So I am doing the show solo. It probably won't go as long, but yeah. Yeah, Mike, as far as Sammy goes, at this point, I've heard that everything that, the bits of waves that were made from him not doing this, it's been smoothed out. Everybody's okay. But it's like, to me, it's like a bit unprofessional. It's like you're paid to do a job. You're asked to do a thing that, like, you make the best of it with the thing you're asked to do. Like denying, like, there's certain lines you don't cross, but I'm going to guess whatever they were asking him to do was not that bad, and he just big leagued them. That's my guess. That's the feeling I get. So, all right. So that was AEW. All right. So let's get into a couple of things here with Monday Night Raw. I just have to say, Alfonso Estrella, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You are the hero that we as wrestling fans don't deserve. We did not deserve this Lacey Evans, Charlotte Flair storyline. This was just bad and reminded you of some of the worst parts of the Attitude Era. And my hope with that storyline is like when it ended up that, maybe Lacey Evans was going to be taken to the next level. But just the way they were doing about it, and, it felt like creepy old man with beautiful young woman and like, and at this point, it's hard with Ric Flair knowing that, like, he's married now, knowing Lacey Evans is married, and like, it's been pretty well documented about all of this stuff, and it's like going, how could I take this storyline serious in any way? But thankfully, and congratulations to Lacey Evans and her husband. She really is pregnant, and we now no longer have to see this storyline continuing. But allegedly, Lacey and Rick are going to be going on Maury Povich in probably about 7 or 8 months, and we'll find out, who the father is. Is it Alfonso or is it Rick? So, anyway, yeah, good times. So, I'm so happy that storyline is just done. Absolutely thrilled that that's done. All right, so Matt Riddle and the Lucha House Party ended up defeating the Hurt Business. At the end of this match, Bobby Lashley came and just absolutely eviscerated everybody. Absolutely everybody. I think he was looking to toss Lindsay Dorado a little further than he did. He only tossed him 10 feet instead of 30 feet. If he had a Singh brother, it would have been 50 feet. But beyond that, so obviously we're still setting up for Matt Riddle and Bobby Lashley, and that's he and Keith Lee are we're going to have a triple threat U.S. title match at Elimination Chamber. But another thing that came out of this match is MVP is legit hurt. MVP showed up on Raw Talk on crutches and was having a hard time walking. So speedy recovery to MVP. I love MVP. His run here with the Hurt Business has really elevated everybody within that group. And, it's tough to have a faction without a leader. So I'm sure they'll figure out a way to incorporate him in, but this will be good. Yeah. Chris, that's really a bummer that Lacey is still going to be on Raw for the next few weeks. But, oh well. Yeah. Bummer. Okay, so Chris, with some breaking news that possibly Keith Lee being pulled from the match because his fiancee Mia Yim has COVID. That would be a bummer for him because, Keith Lee, since he's been on the main roster, has certainly had some opportunities. He won clean against Randy Orton. He's been in the ring with the WWE champion, and, they certainly see big things for him. And it would stink if this opportunity kind of got messed up because of COVID. But you know what? If WWE is trying to keep people safe, it's absolutely the right call. So we shall see, and maybe we end up getting a one-on-one match. But we've seen Riddle against Lashley a couple times before. So Monsef, definitely my whole from a couple weeks ago was definitely the best part of Monday Night Raw. At some point, I think I'm going to replace one of these pictures back here. Not Curtis Axel, obviously. Not Curtis Axel. But we'll replace one of these pictures with the whole picture. So it'll be fantastic. Can't wait for it. All right. So one thing that so Miz had a segment of Miz TV and had Drew McIntyre out for it. And Miz, so as far as storyline and as far as smarts go, you're like going, okay, yeah, this makes sense. Miz declared himself no longer as part of the Elimination Chamber match. And strategy-wise, you're like, hey, Miz has money in the bank. Well, if I were him, I'd sit there and wait till somebody was beat the heck out of at the end of the match. Wait till they raise the chamber like Edge did against John Cena back in the day and cash in that opportunity when they're beat up, where it's like if Miz is in the match, hey, he gets beat up too during that match, and he's a little less fresh for an opportunity of taking down champion and possibly riding into WrestleMania as champion. But the thing with this is, like when Adam Pearce was involved in the storyline with Roman Reigns and he was going to go against Roman Reigns in a last man standing match, the only way that Adam Pearce could get out of that match contractually was to be injured. Miz isn't claiming any injury here. And, how is he allowed to take himself out of this match? Shouldn't Adam Pearce be the one that, has final say in this? But, again, it's kind of this WWE logic thing that, all right, it is what it is, and whatever. All right, so Chris has a theory of what's going on with that match. All right, we'll get with that in a minute. So, all right. So what ended up happening is Miz decided that he wanted his replacement to be John Morrison. And Adam Pearce said, well, you know what? Why don't we think about another former champion? And he's like, what about Kofi Kingston here? So it was decided that Miz would go against Kofi, and whoever won that match, if Miz won, Morrison would be in. If Kofi won, Kofi would be in. So Kofi ends up winning. So Kofi is now into the Elimination Chamber match. And good for Kofi. And I have an unfortunate belief that because Kofi is in this match, Kofi, I think, is going to have some moments. And I think, unfortunately, in the end, that means Retribution is going to get involved here. But I think that means we get Slapjack at the Elimination Chamber. And you know what? I guess any Slapjack is better than no Slapjack. I wish Slapjack wasn't in Retribution, but I guess that makes it a little bit funnier. I don't know. Yeah. So there's that. So what we did for Monday Night Raw, we had a gauntlet match, and the winner of the gauntlet match was going to get the coveted last spot for the Elimination Chamber match. You know, that way you're nice and rested, and everybody else has been beat the hell out of. And I'm not going to go through every match here, but as far as this goes, one thing they did storyline wise, and I thought was pretty fantastic, is like that there was a point where Randy Orton was having his match for the gauntlet, and the entire Thunderdome ended up being Alexa Bliss on screen, which I thought was just it was a great visual, looked fantastic, and continues to feed into this storyline. I love that, like, Alexa had like almost like the demonic eyes, and like talking about how Bray's going to be reborn, and then like I think Alexa was within like a pentagram, so it's like, you know, as he is. Last week I was talking about, hey, maybe Bray Wyatt should be reborn and be like a Bible thumper or something like that. But this makes me think he's going to be like the Antichrist when he comes back. And I'm wondering what he's going to look like. So speaking of Bray Wyatt, there actually was an awful lot of chatter about his brother, Bo Dallas, this week. And like people have been wondering what the heck's been up with Bo Dallas. Bo Dallas has been off of TV for about 15 months now. They don't even ask him to come to tapings anymore, but he's still been getting a WWE paycheck. It's like WWE laid off an awful lot of people that I think were doing an awful lot of stuff on TV or for the company, but they've kept Bo Dallas around. But apparently Bo Dallas has been kind of setting up to his life for after pro wrestling, and apparently he and Liv Morgan are a thing, and I think he's got like a farm that he's done, and I think setting up stuff for insurance and what have you. So, you know what, good for him for taking the money that WWE apparently is just giving away to him and setting up a new life, because I mean, I'm sure he sees what's in the cards. WWE ain't using me, creative ain't got nothing for me, they don't even have me go to the shows. I'm getting cut at some point. So hopefully good things for Bo Dallas in the future. So good times. So, all right. In the end, with the gauntlet match, we did have Sheamus go over Drew McIntyre, hit him with a brogue kick. You know, again, this is the animosity that they've been kind of building up for quite some time. I mean, a few months ago when Sheamus accidentally brogue kicked Drew, I'm like, these guys are going to have a match at some point. Like, they're best friends. They want to have a match against each other on the biggest stage of them all. And, you know, Drew complaining that like having an Elimination Chamber match instead of it being a one-on-one match with Sheamus, you know, they're going to have a one-on-one match at some point. And we'll get into that a little bit shortly. Another thing that happened on Raw this week is we did have Braun Strowman on TV complaining that he wasn't in the Elimination Chamber match to Adam Pearce. And so Pearce goes, well, you were a Universal Champion. You weren't a heavyweight champion. So that's different. And Braun wasn't too happy about that and just, you need to make this right. And basically it was like, well, Shane's the one who did this, so you need to talk to Shane. So we'll see if that leads anywhere. If we're going to get like Braun Strowman versus Shane McMahon at WrestleMania, who the heck knows? Who the heck knows? So, all right. So Chris Brown saying about The Fiend. Interesting theory about that, Jay, suggesting the spirit of The Fiend may have passed from Bray's body into Alexa's, and that's one of the reasons we haven't seen him in so long. Very, very interesting. That certainly could be a thing. I think when they do characters like this, you can only like handle a couple of them at a time. It's like that's why the Undertaker worked. Papa Shango didn't. A few years later, Kane worked, but for the most part, when you get the ones that are like messing with the spirit world, that they don't always work. But you have to have a talented person that knows how to bring an audience in for whatever shortcomings Bray Wyatt may have in the ring. And I think he's a solid performer. Like, his character building is impeccable. Like, he comes up with new stuff and gets you like completely entranced. And he's come up with, outside of Husky Harris, which was not of his doing. Outside of Husky Harris, I mean, he's knocked it out of the park with his different iterations of himself. So, let that man go and figure things out and come back fresh and like freak out little kids. Because you know what? 20 years from now, those kids are going to be like, oh my God, I was so scared of that dude. I didn't know what was going on. So, yeah, love it. All right, so on SmackDown yesterday, we had Edge cutting a promo about deciding his WrestleMania opponent, and Roman Reigns comes out, and the two of them had a brilliant exchange where Edge was like going, where Roman's like, "Oh, you were scared of me. I saw the fear in your eyes," and the Edge turning it around on him like going, "Oh no. I knew exactly. Like, I pulled one over on you. You thought you saw fear in me. You didn't. I used that against you. I used your pride. I used your arrogance against you." And Edge was like, "Look, I haven't even officially decided to come at you right now. And even with that, there's already a chink in the armor. And he's like, if I'm concentrating on you, no doubt I will expose that in you." I enjoyed the wordplay, but Roman Reigns, like, hey, I am the main event. You could be going against the main eventer, but I'm the main event. I've been the main event of 4 WrestleManias, and it's going to be 5, 6, 7, 8, however many I want it to be. But Edge talking about like, no, Roman, what I see in you is you are not going to be the main event unless you go against me. And then he talked about all the different folks in the Elimination Chamber matches. And he's like, if I go against that person, this is Edge speaking, I am the main event. I am in the main event. You're not the main event. You need me to be the main event. So I thought that was good, and a little bit of character and a little bit of developing the storyline of like Edge knows where to hit Roman Reigns and get him to think twice about who he thinks he is. Yeah. All right. But in the middle of this, Sami Zayn interrupted and says he feels like he's been disrespected because nobody's talking about Sami Zayn. And Sami Zayn with his camera crew says like, all right, guys, I need you to get me get over here. All right, I need you to get on this side so you can get a great footage of me pointing at the WrestleMania sign. And you end up Zayn ends up getting beat up here and eating a spear from Edge, and Edge ends up eating a spear from Roman Reigns. And am I messing it up? That happened see, my brain is all out of sorts. It's like going, did that end up at the beginning or at the end? At the beginning here, Reigns ended up walking out of the ring. So, but there were little touches here though, like where Reigns whispered into Edge's ear at one point. But this whole segment was fantastic. So, all right. So then we had Shinsuke Nakamura defeating Apollo Crews here. But the real story was we're finally seeing kind of a full heel Apollo Crews, and Cruz ended up attacking and hitting Big E in the back and with stairs and just going absolutely ballistic. So if this is the beginning of seeing a little bit more of Apollo Crews, and unfortunately, this sounds like a broken record. There's been several times where it seemed like they were going to do something with Crews, and Crews just hasn't done anything as far as getting to that next level. And I don't know if it's his fault, WWE's fault. I still fault WWE for bringing him up to the main roster too early. It was clear his in-ring ability was impeccable, but his character was nothing. Absolutely nothing. And if all you're known for is having impeccable matches, you're just not going to capture the hearts and minds of the people watching you. So I hope this is the beginning of something where we can really sink our teeth into Apollo Crews and who Apollo Crews is. All right, and then we had Seth Rollins come out and basically cutting a promo on all of WWE, saying all of them are losers, and he is going to lead them into a better vision of the future. And he referred to Cesaro is the biggest loser of them all. Cesaro, talked about after this, hey, I was out there because I respect Seth. And I was hoping Seth was going to come back as a new man, revitalized, and just a new path forward. And he's like, nope, he's just the same old guy, and more or less called him a douchebag. But Cesaro never really has been offered opportunities here for being a top-level singles guy. The thing where they really messed up with him is when they had him as a Heyman guy, and the end game should have been Cesaro versus Brock Lesnar, and we never got that. It didn't happen, and it's just a shame. But Cesaro in interviews has talked about how long was it with Bret Hart being here before finally the right opportunity happened and Bret got to that next level? I think Bret Hart was in WWE for 8 or 9 years before he got the chance at being world champion. Cesaro's been in WWE roughly the same time, maybe a little bit longer. So I think that was definitely the fact that Cesaro recently re-signed with WWE and thinks hey, you know what? I'm going to keep working hard and my opportunity's going to come. Cream rises to Cesaro, has been putting in the work. And I think, if he gets an opportunity, let's say similar to Kofi Kingston a couple of years ago, I think he would knock it out of the park, honestly. So, yes, I love the fact that Otis has turned heel because, unfortunately, Mike, I think with Otis, with what they did booking him after he won Money in the Bank, they had him win at WrestleMania and get the girl. They had him win Money in the Bank. And then after he won Money in the Bank, then all of a sudden they take the girl, they move her over to Monday Night Raw and leave Otis on SmackDown. They also take his tag team partner and move him over to Monday Night Raw. So you immediately took away two things from him that was part of his package at that moment. And then you take the Money in the Bank off him. And, I don't know if WWE was trying to see if he could sink or swim on his own. It was probably too soon to see if he could sink or swim on his own. I think it would, you don't just give somebody something and then take it away immediately and say, all right, you got to swim on your own. Now it's going that they spent so long on that Mandy Rose storyline that you get the payoff at WrestleMania. And then all of a sudden you're going, yeah, you get the payoff, you get the girl, but we're taking it back. You're going to win Money in the Bank, but we're going to take that back. You're going to get to a certain level with your partner. We're going to take that back. I think they did enough, as much as they could with Otis, as far as building hit him up as kind of like this comedy figure on SmackDown, and he wasn't going to get anywhere else or anywhere new. So him being in I have the name written down, the Alpha Academy. So he and Chad Gable are called the Alpha Academy, and the fact that, after the match with the Mysterios, that they put a beating on them, and basically seeing Otis be, a big man, where Otis is doing splashes and other devastating maneuvers, where you're like going, okay, all right, I'd like to see where they go with this, because, with the Brainless One and I have been in agreement for a while. Like, as much as it's kind of fun, like doing the caterpillar and the crowd getting hyped up for that, as far as an ending move goes, that's absolute garbage. Like, it's a bad ending move. But if I see, Otis, wakes, stakes and weights, given, that 360 pounds and doing a splash off the second rope, that's absolutely devastating if you land on somebody smaller below you. So I'm like, yeah, I could grab onto that as a better ending move, and taking Otis in a more serious direction, I think, is better, like, as far as his career and as far as his character development, because he was as far as he could go at that moment. And a guy like Chad Gable, who's incredibly talented, I think deserves an opportunity, with all the stupid stuff they tried to put on him with the Shorty G thing, and trying to be in like King Corbin's court. It was just terrible stuff. So the fact that they have these two guys that had been misused for a while, putting them together, hopefully they turn into a badass tag team that will end up, making waves in division and bring both these guys to something better. So, Mike Rainey, yes, Tucker is still waiting and catering for TV time. Yeah, it's like, if you're going to split these guys up, at least have something for them to do. You spent all that TV time on them, building them up as a team, and building up their friendship and partnership. Then you break them up and have Tucker turn on Otis, but put them on separate shows so they can't ever have a real, true, like, feud or blow off to a feud. Like, it was just stupid booking at the time. And, again, hopefully this is something for Otis that, takes him in a good direction. And I'm looking forward to seeing how this develops. All right. So we had Tamina and Natty going against the Riot Squad. So Tamina and Natty end up going over, but you know what? The whole point of this segment was for Billie Kay to come out with her resume updated and try to get new friends. And, she came out with, in a cat outfit and a Tamina Snuka shirt, trying to get some support from Tamina and Natty when she obviously couldn't get over with the Riot Squad. So, you know what? When they broke up Billie Kay and Peyton Royce, it was like, it looks like Peyton's the one set for stardom. And you know what? Looking at it now, it's like, no, Billie Kay's the talented one. Billie Kay's the one who knows what her gimmick is. Peyton Royce, I don't know if, outside of the Iconics, knew what her character and what her gimmick was. So, yeah. Good times. Yeah. Tamina, I just wish to win a little, like really a little loyal girl, and never did a problem come one. Yeah, Monsef, when it comes to Tamina, she's been, both Tamina and Natty have been very loyal to WWE. In fact, like a year, I think it was like a year ago when she had a title shot, I kind of thought that she was going to win the title because, she's been there for a while and has been a very loyal, company soldier. So, yeah. But, the thing is with these segments, a lot of time, Chris and Monsef, it's like sometimes when we look at them, like in the current time, you're like, that's stupid. But like a lot of the stuff with Billy Kay, I think like we'll look back years from now and be like, you know what, that was funny stuff. That was so over the top and stupid that it was funny. So I'm trying to project myself into the future with some of these things. I'm like, oh yeah, this is stupid, won't age well. No reason to even pay this any mind. So yeah, I don't even want to talk about that. All right. So end of SmackDown, we had Sami Zayn, Baron Corbin, and Jey Uso going against Cesaro, Daniel Bryan, and Kevin Owens. And we had Cesaro, Bryan, and Owens go over. All right, Petey. Hey, if you want to talk, I'm gonna bring up the chair. I'm gonna get the chair. All right. All right. I think my dog is going to sit in for the brainless one right now. All right. Come on. Come on. Come on. All right. All right. Well, you should take the chair. Take the chair. All right. All right. All right. Take this podcast to the next level, right, Petey? All right. All right. So, yeah, Cesaro, Bryan, and Owens win. And in the end, there was just a big ruckus where we had Edge spearing Jey Uso, but at the end, we get Roman Reigns spearing Edge and standing tall at the end of SmackDown this week. So, you know, this is just my random wrestling question. You hear so many things about wrestlers hating other people stealing their ending moves. And like, if you steal their ending move, like that's a big issue. Why does everybody get to use the spear? Like I'm surprised Goldberg was like, no, nobody else uses the spear. You know, when he showed up in WWE, but everybody uses the dang spear. Everybody uses a super kick. But like, if anybody else did an RKO, you bet your last dollar Randy Orton would be like, no, never no. The only other person that could use a similar maneuver that he would probably let get away with it is Diamond Dallas Page. So, but it's just interesting to me that like everybody and their mother has a spear. Anyway. All right. So that leads us all into Elimination Chamber. So to an extent, Monsefa, you know, the spear is kind of like the suplex or DDT, but or the superplex, you know, but like the superplex or the suplex, like, you know, is a general maneuver where like, you know, with the spear is supposed to be an ending move, and it generally is an ending move. So, yeah. The RKO's well protected. The end of days ending move from Corbin's well protected. There are definitely a few moves out there that like people just don't mess with. Pretty well protected. So anyway, all right. So let's get into Elimination Chamber. Elimination Chamber. We apparently have 5 matches now, where we've got Sasha Banks in the EST going against Nia and Shayna for the Women's Tag Team Championships. There's no reason to take the tag titles off of Nia and Shayna. And you know me, I always dislike the idea of having the, a makeshift team beating an established team. And at this point, Nia and Shayna are no longer a makeshift team. They are an established team. They are the whole division. Right? So, all right. Brainless one agrees. Nia and Shayna retain. All right. And just hyping you guys for next week's episode, by the way, the Brainless one gets the Man-O Lantern next week. And also, just throwing it out there for everybody, we are now officially on Spotify. Our episode from last week is up there. And at some point, probably tomorrow, I will put up this episode. I probably have a bit more editing to do because, you know, doing the show on your own, with a little bit of a backup from Petey, doesn't do as well. So, all right. So then we have Bobby Lashley versus Keith Lee and Matt Riddle, triple threat for the U.S. Championship. Now, Chris Brown put out there that possibly Keith Lee is out of this match because of Mia Yim having COVID. If that's the case, I think it completely changes the possibilities with this. Now, for me, I think Lashley should win no matter what, but there was certainly part of me that's like, Keith Lee could win this match, and I wouldn't be upset. It would seem all right. Matt Riddle could win this match, and I could kind of understand that, but you know what? I think they've been doing such a great job with Lashley, with having him be like indestructible kind of ass kicker lately. I think it'd be a shame to take the U.S. title off him unless you had bigger things like Brock Lesnar waiting in the wings, and I don't think they have that right now. So I say keep the title on Lashley. So, Monsef, Nia is right now the leader in the clubhouse, and I think it's going to be tough to overcome the My Whole moment as the markout moment of the year. All right, Brainless One agrees. Bobby Lashley. All right, so then we have the Elimination Chamber match for the Heavyweight Championship between Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, Kofi Kingston, Randy Orton, AJ Styles, and Jeff Harvey. Sheamus gets the coveted last spot in this match, having beat McIntyre on Monday Night Raw. I don't see any way where they're taking the title off McIntyre outside of, and this is the only thing that I could see happening. McIntyre wins this match. Miz cashes in and wins the title. But if that scenario happened, which I don't think it will, Miz, I think, would lose the title on Monday Night Raw. That's just my opinion. But, they're building towards McIntyre and Sheamus. I think this is a WrestleMania level event. I think it would probably be, the main event of day one or day two. So I think this is where we get Drew McIntyre winning, and I don't see Miz cashing in quite yet. So Chris Brown chiming in now that this is where things are going to get fun. During the match, right before Lashley's about to put the Hurt Lock, there's a certain someone's music that hits and distracts him long enough for the bro kick in 1, 2, 3. And I think Lesnar does return. Hey, you know what? I would love to see that. Huh? Hey, I like that, Monsef. Jeff Harvey wins. Jeff Harvey wins and cashes in. Yeah. I think I agree with that. Orton getting jumped at some point by Wyatt, possibly. And maybe it might not even be Wyatt. It could be jumped by Strowman, and Strowman's back in the fold of being with Bray Wyatt. Who knows? And the Brainless One did not see this before, but this is my prediction here. Kofi being in this match. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about this, would it be out of the realm of possibility that Slapjack and Retribution attack Kofi and injure Kofi? That way Mustafa Ali possibly gets the opportunity that Kofi got. Kofi got that opportunity because Ali got hurt. Would Retribution, based on their name, would Retribution beat up Kofi so Mustafa Ali could get inserted into the Elimination Chamber match? Or perhaps they beat up Kofi Kingston and Braun Strowman gets the opportunity. I'm just throwing those out there. But either way, despite all that, Drew McIntyre wins this match in one way, shape, or form. All right, so then we have the SmackDown Elimination Chamber match between Daniel Bryan, Kevin Owens, Baron Corbin, Cesaro, Jey Uso, and Sami Zayn. The winner of this match will then face Roman Reigns at some point later on in the evening. My guess is quite literally this match will happen right after the Elimination Chamber match. And that's just the way Roman Reigns has rolled since he's been champion. So honestly, I could make cases for several people to win this match because, like, this is going to be a one-off challenger for Roman Reigns because, you know, I think most of us realize that Edge really is going to be going against Roman Reigns at WrestleMania. I mean, do you sit there and do you continue with this Kevin Owens thing where Kevin Owens feels like he's been cheated multiple times against Roman Reigns? You know, it feels like the storyline should be done at this point, but it's not quite. Do you have a guy like Daniel Bryan who, you know, can go out there and have a heck of a match and you know, sell a beatdown better than anybody? Do you have a guy like Cesaro who just recently re-signed and, you know, is talking about, hey, I'm waiting for my opportunity and I'm looking to knock it out of the park? Do you give a guy like that an opportunity? We're not going to see Baron Corbin win this match. We're not going to see Jey Uso win this match. And as much as it could be fun to have Sami Zayn win this match, I don't see him winning this match either. But you know what? I'm going to go with a dark horse here. I'm going with Cesaro. I want to see Cesaro given an opportunity. I love the opportunity that Jey Uso was afforded months ago, and I think he took it and ran with it, and they turned this into an incredible storyline. But Cesaro, who, you know, has been really kind of held back most of his WWE career and has been a tag team champion multiple times with several partners and has always really done well with that. I'd love to see a little bit more out of him, see some fire here, and I'd love to see a surprise victory like that. So, you know, Monsef, I would have loved to see Sammy win because, like, his character lately has been so good. So good. But, like, at this moment, I don't think I see that. I mean, I guess if they want to continue this vibe of, like, Sami Zayn getting screwed, he wins this match, but the only time he gets a title match is after he's been through a brutal cage match. I get that as far as the character goes, but I don't know. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So the brainless one's going with Daniel Bryan. All right. And Chris goes with Bryan. I'm going with Cesaro. All right. Good times. Good times. All right. And then we got Roman Reigns going against the winner of that match. And I don't think there's any doubt Roman Reigns is going to win this match. It's going to be like one of those matches, I think, where, like, that person is going to kind of be beat down. Roman's going to play around a bit with them. And then he's going to kind of be a little too arrogant, too prideful, and almost get beaten. But in the end, he is going to win this match. And we will have Edge against Roman Reigns eventually. So that is the Elimination Chamber card for, yeah. So anyways, all right, let's move on to the good, the bad, and the brainless. All right, there was an awful lot of stuff that happened this week. There was a decent amount of good, a good amount of bad, and some definite brainless. So I am going to, my good for this week is Alfonso Estrella. I thank God for you, Alfonso. We will only have to deal with this Lacey Evans and Ric Flair storyline for another couple weeks because of you. Thank you so much. We as wrestling fans are indebted to you for a very long time because I'm sure Vince McMahon was behind the scenes saying, this is such good shit. No, thank you. So, yeah, that is my good for this week. Yeah. Yeah, so Chris Brown saying prior to Edge returning, he would have thought that Roman against Bryan would have been the most logical choice. So, yeah. All right. All right. So Monsef saying he thinks Captain Cupcake is going to make Roman lose tonight. So, all right. Monsef, Alfonso Estrella is Lacey Evans' legit in real life husband. He is the one who impregnated her, and he is the reason why we're getting rid of this stupid storyline. So, yeah. All right, Brainless One going with the Otis heel turn as his good. I enjoyed it too. I was speaking before of like, I think Otis had taken the character that he was working with as far as he could, and doing the best that he can right now with this, and he'll make it work. And I like seeing the big man doing like a splash off the second rope. It looks awesome. So, all right, my bad for this week is JR having a senior moment, having a Hulk Hogan moment on AEW Dynamite by calling Kenny Omega the WWE champion. Hey, you know what? It happens to the best of us. I mean, me and the Brainless One screw up weekly, but JR calling Omega the WWE champion, bad. So that is my bad for this week. Good old JR. Best play-by-play man in the business ever, and but he definitely had a bad moment. All right. And my Brainless for this week is the Lacey Evans storyline. So, like, they could have done several things with this Lacey Evans storyline. Like when Becky Lynch decided that, like when they found out she was pregnant, they wrote her off TV and, she gave up the title and left the ring. So, they could have done this differently. And they're like going, well, we've already got her in a storyline with Ric Flair, and it seems like her and Ric Flair have a thing. And it's like going, oh, please, God, no. Having the creepy older man, no, please. Yeah. So that is definitely my Brainless for this week. Brainless One, what are your bad and Brainless? Yeah. It went off so well because nobody was told it was happening. Yeah. Terrible. Yeah. Anyway. All right. Well, that wraps it up for episode 210 of the F and Marks podcast. Make sure you follow us on all our social media, whether it be Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, at the FN Marks. That is the letter T, the letter H, the letter E, FNMARKS. And also, make sure you go on Spotify and you follow us. And, that way, if you're not able to tune in with us every week, when you're on the road, you could listen to the podcast. Usually it'll probably get up either late Saturday or sometime on Sunday. So definitely check that out. And also, we are live every week on the All Elite Marks page. Set the notifications for when we go live so that when we're here, you could tune in and talk about it. So, all right. So Brainless One says his Brainless goes to Nia and Shayna on multiple shows this week. Oh, come on. We always need more Nia and Shayna, right? Right? Am I right? Or am I right? Right. Yeah, I understand, Brainless One. So anyway, but there is one last thing that has to be done before this podcast is finished, is that today, on February, what's today? February 22nd? Or February 20th, at an astonishing 2,218 days, F and Marks Hall of Famer Curtis Axel is still alive in the 2015 Royal Rumble. I'll do the Brainless One. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this week's episode of the F and Marks podcast. I'm Jay. That normally would be the Brainless One, but he's online watching you. And hope you guys enjoy Elimination Chamber tomorrow. And make sure you mark out with your guaca. See you, everybody. Have a great week. And I'll catch you all next week when the Brainless One gets Man-O-Lantern live on the show. We'll see you then.